10:30 a.m. Music. Are we going to do a share? Vicky asked. Can't, Jordan said, pointing at the clock. Computer lab. No, we did computer lab yesterday, Karen said. Music. Fact, Christopher said. We better go before they come hunting for us. Just go? Jasmine asked. With no teacher? You don't think that's sort of obvious? Not if we're super quiet in the halls, Karen said. Yes, Miss Ballard, sir, Christopher said. He saluted her smartly. Very funny, Karen retorted. Hey, I mean it. We've got to make zero noise or someone's going to notice. We've got to be invisible. Better suck in your gut, Bastian said, nudging Missy. Leave her alone, Rhonda said, smacking him on the arm. We're just kidding, Bastian said. Can't you take a joke? It's not funny, you idiot. Quiet, Karen said. The kids filed out of the classroom. Rachel walked along the hallway of the polished linoleum, long and perfectly smooth. For a miniature airplane, this hall would make a perfect runway for taking off or landing. She watched the line of students ahead of her. They all kept their eyes facing straight ahead as if they filed down the hall. Even their footsteps seemed strangely muted as they moved over the linoleum, past the other three sixth-grade classrooms and down the stairs. The column made a smooth right onto the central corridor, and then another girl right on the all-purpose room that was used for music. Inside, Mrs. Ickeringle, the music teacher, was waiting for them at the piano. She was a stocky, red-faced woman wearing glasses and a button that read, Music is my life. Welcome, she said. Please take your places, boys and girls. Chop, chop. Come now, we don't have much time. Class 6-238 assembled on the riser, sopranos to the left, altos to the right. Rachel had no intention of singing, but she took her place with the altos, as she did always. Wedging herself between Missy and Jasmine, Rachel got a mental image of Tommy Feathers, face bright and eager, singing in last year's winter concert. He sure had loved to sing. It didn't seem to matter to him in the least that he couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, as they say. Mrs. Ickeringle played a few piano notes to the song, a stirring melody with lyrics taken from the poem on the Statue of Liberty. Rachel stood quietly as the kids began to sing around her. Today, their voices combined to make a clear, strong sound. I'm not singing this, sorry. Give me you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest, tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Wonderful, Mrs. Ickeringle cried. She sat up and looked at them surprised. You've got spirit today. You've got juice. Again! Let's take it from the top. They sang it again, and the song sounded even more beautiful than before, so much so that Rachel could feel the beginnings of a sound rising from some deep, buried place at the bottom of her chest, itching to join in, and it was everything she could do to keep that sound down. 11:13 a.m. Snack. Back in room 238, kids took out their snacks along with their math books. In her backpack, Rachel found carrots and, yes, a bag of vinegar and salt-flavored potato chips. She knew the chips were bad for her, full of fat, laced with chemicals and dye, almost green-colored, but she didn't care. And today Mom had given her an extra-large bag. She opened it, took out a bunch, and offered it to Missy. Oh, I can't, Missy sighed. My mom's got me on another diet. Rachel glanced beyond Missy's desk to see where Sean was sitting. She noticed that today there was no snack on his desk. While the kids around him chatted and ate, Sean busied himself with rummaging through his desk. Rachel looked at Missy, offered the bag of chips, and motioned with her eyes at Sean. Oh, yeah, sure, Missy said. Take the bag from Rachel. Hey, Sean, you want some of these? From Rachel. Thanks, he mumbled. He took a bunch of chips from the bag and passed it back to Rachel. A month ago, Rachel had to meet with the school psychologist during snack time. She'd bring a small bag of carrots or celery and sit outside Mr. Snickenberger's office until he called her to come in. He was a tall, bearded man who wore brightly ugly ties, but he always had a fresh bowl of salt and vinegar potato chips on his desk. She'd munch those chips while he asked questions. How would you describe your relationship with your mother? How long have your parents been divorced? Did you become interested in flying around the time when your father moved out? How did you feel about Tommy Feathers, and how do you think he felt about you? Did he ever touch you or try to kiss you? Sometimes she'd answer his questions with written notes, but mostly she just listened, nodded, or shook her head, and savored those chips, the delicious chemical tang they left on her tongue. I don't like him, she wrote to her mother one night while sitting at the kitchen table. Why not? Can't stand those gaudy ties. He gives me the creeps. He acts like he knows stuff about me I don't know. Mr. Snickerberger was pleasant with her for the first few weeks, but as time passed, he began losing patience with her silence. One day he asked her a series of questions, and when she didn't reply, the man suddenly exploded. I'll tell you what I think, he said with an angry face. I think your obsession with flying is your attempt to fly away from your problems. Well, it won't work, young lady. One thing you need to learn is you can't run away from your life. That's a lesson you better learn sooner than later. That marked her last session with Mr. Snickerberger. But even though she stopped seeing him, she had no intention of giving up those salt and vinegar potato chips. Now she took one last handful of chips and passed the bag to Missy with a gesture that said, finished. Here, Missy said, handing the bag to Sean. You can have the rest. Rachel saw the pleasure in Sean's eyes and was glad she'd left him a lot. 11:18 a.m. Visitors. Let's put some music on, Christopher said. Yeah, rock and roll. Better rock quietly, Karen told him, unless you want a bunch of teachers crawling all over us. This is stupid, Bastian said. We've got no teacher, but we're sitting here doing geometry? We're acting like we're on detention. Let's do something. Who's stopping us? You. Knock, knock. Rachel stared at the door. When it opened, Katie Bretz sailed into the room. Katie was in Mrs. Riley's class. She was dressed in a blue jumper with matching blue socks and a tiny blue ribbon in her blonde hair. Katie seemed a little bit preppy. Perfect posture, every hair in place, but everyone agreed she was a talented actress. She had already appeared in 2 commercials. They were dumb commercials for laundry detergent, but still, she had been on TV. Mrs. Riley needs the book club orders, she said. Okay, Karen said, taking a large envelope off Mr. Fabiano's desk. Here you go. Where's Mr. Fab? He's out at the moment, Karen explained. Out? Katie glanced around the classroom. Yeah, we're supposed to have a sub, Tim explained, but the sub didn't show up either. We're just sort of winging it today. Bastian elbowed Tim hard. Yeah, right, Katie said. With a toss of her blonde hair, she breezed out of the room. That was stupid, Jasmine told him. Extremely stupid. I mean, why not just announce it to the whole school? She didn't believe me, Tim said, giggling. Did you see that? She didn't believe me. It's just too unbelievable. Another knock on the door, louder this time. This time Morgan Hashhagen strolled in. He had a crew cut and an Orlando Magic t-shirt. Morgan's father ran the local funeral home. Morgan was so small, he looked more like a 4th grader than a 6th grader. Mr. Fab? He asked, glancing around. He's not here, Karen said smoothly. You got a sub? Morgan asked, still looking. What do you need? Karen asked him. Hey, where is everybody? Morgan asked. His eyes darted from one side of the room to another, and he looked so funny. Rachel had to work hard to squelch a smile. Karen giggled, and a few other kids joined in. We're all here, Jasmine said. Alone. Fact, Christopher said. Yeah, right, Morgan smiled. You lie. You're right, it's a lie, Karen said. So what do you need? Are you guys really alone? Morgan asked. The sub never showed up, Karen explained, nodding calmly. Guess they figured we didn't need any teacher today, and it turns out they're right. Morgan stared at her. He knew Karen was not the kind of girl who went around making up stories. His expression slowly changed from skepticism to wide-eyed disbelief. Really? He looked out at the class. You guys got nobody here? You didn't tell anyone? You tell anybody and you die, Rhonda told him. This is so cool. Morgan leaped up onto Mr. Fab's desk and started doing a fast boogie-woogie. How mature, Rhonda said. Get off there, you jerk. Morgan jumped off and pulled open one of the drawers of Mr. Fabiano's desk. What do you think you're doing? Candy, Morgan said. Mr. Fab keeps a stash down here. Hey, Bastian jumped out of his seat. You take any of Mr. Fab's candy, I'll break your arm. Okay, Morgan said, holding up both hands, palms out. He picked up a shiny rock on Mr. Fabiano's desk, a cubic piece of pyrite, and tossed it into the air. Rachel drew a quick, sharp breath. That had been Tommy Feathers' favorite rock. Put that down, Missy said. Geez, Morgan said. You guys are sure jumpy today. We don't like other people messing with our stuff, Bastian said. Now Morgan started slinking around the classroom, grinning, looking carefully at everything. Don't you have to get back to your class? Jessica asked. Not really, Morgan said. When he spotted all the open math books on the desk, his face went all bug-eyed. Don't tell me you guys are actually working with no teacher? What a bunch of wusses. Getting our work done now so we can party all afternoon, Christopher told him. He leaned back and loudly cracked his knuckles. And you are not invited, Tim said. You're starting to get a little annoying, Karen told Morgan. What exactly do you want? Miss Kiefer needs the American History book, Teacher's Edition. I'm not sure where that is, Karen said. I'll look for it and bring it down. Just promise you won't tell any teacher till after school. Promise? Oh, sure, I'm going to go squeal to my teacher, Morgan said. Give her a sour look. He leaped up onto Mr. Fabiano's desk again and did another quick boogie-woogie. This is so cool. Goodbye, Karen said. She pulled him off the desk and pushed him out the door. Jasmine had to search all through the supply closet before she finally dug out the history book. Here it is, she said. Without a word, Sean O'Day got up and took it from her. I'll bring it, he said softly. Okay, Jasmine said. Sean's stomach felt queasy with those vinegary potato chips on top of the soda, on top of the candy bar. Maybe a walk would help settle it down before he could get a hot meal at lunch. Usually Sean got a special feeling, a peculiar kind of airiness whenever he left the classroom to walk in the halls. Sean loved those few minutes when you could go on your own to the bathroom. Those were the only moments in the whole school day when he really felt free, unseen. He always made a point of walking slowly, trying to make those few moments of school freedom last as long as possible. But today, leaving the class was different. He left the classroom where no teacher was watching and went out into the halls where a teacher might see him. It felt strange, and he walked faster than usual to Mrs. Kiefer's classroom. He knocked. Mrs. Kiefer was standing at the blackboard. Here, he said, handing her the history book. Tell Mr. Fabiano thank you, Mrs. Kiefer said. She was a thin woman with a pasty complexion, and she didn't look particularly happy. He was glad he had Mr. Fab for a teacher. Sean nodded. Oh, that's right. He's out today, isn't he? Well, thank your sub. Okay, Sean mumbled as he edged to the door. On the way out, he spotted Morgan Haschenhagen waving like a maniac from the back of the room. Music was playing when Sean returned to room 238, a song by the Counting Crows, turned down low. Sean looked out at the schedule on the board. 11:30, connections. Writing again. Sean took his seat and glanced over at Rachel. He tried to catch her eye, but she was deep into her writing. Everyone was.